recognize the outside world and allow her to express herself have been completely severed.
My mother and sister. I want you to look after them for me, okay?
If she's your sister, I'll look after her. Like she was my own.
I can't stand them. Just look at them.
What were you thinking? Number 623's badly injured.
All he's gotta do is just regenerate, like this. Are you saying you can't regenerate? No! I don't want to be alone!
Ever since Albedo learned he couldn't die, he somehow started to change.
If the body did not die, and the fears born in the mind just continued to pile up, the world would be nothing more than an eternal prison.
I'm scared, Rubito! Don't let go of my hand! Don't let go!
Everything's exactly like it was then. Time has stopped in this world.
Momo, your father tried to save the world you were about to be born into.
That's Cecily and Kat. Xion, set my sisters free.
Behold, Rubido! At long last my time has come! The time to join the eternal chain! The time to quench my thirst at the source!
Chapter 39, Red and White. Back at the Durandal, a 100 series Realian tells Junior that further expansion of the anomaly has halted. However, it will eventually start expanding again, as Mary says, and it will eventually swallow up the whole region and maybe more. Jin states that the only way to resolve this is to go inside and destroy the source directly, that being Albedo. Then Junior tells Shelly to take over, and he walks away to clear his head. Xion finds Junior down in the Durandal Park where he says that he has been hearing Albedo calling out to him. Apparently Albedo wants to settle the score. Junior doesn't know what's going to happen, but he knows that he has to go and confront him. He then tells Xion that he's going to go by and check on Ziggy and Momo, who has apparently not left Ziggy's side since his repairs started. We see Ziggy in his maintenance chair. He's talking to Julie Mizrahi, who tells him that she managed to get her hands on some manuals that will allow her to provide him with repairs. Apparently, the manuals were treated as some kind of ancient manuscript, which is a testament to how old Ziggy's framework is. Julie, who has been calling Ziggy by his normal name this whole game, Jan Sauer, tells Ziggy that it's been a century since he has been revived, and that the average lifespan of a living brain that hasn't gotten extension is 130 years. So, despite the fact that he has been refusing lifespan extensions on his organic components, Julie asks him if he would consider living a little longer for Momo's sake, a request which seems to make Momo happy. Julie also says that there are things she wants to learn from him and how he lives. After taking a moment, Ziggy asks if he could have some time to think about it, to which Julie tells him that she will be awaiting the good news. Junior, who was eavesdropping again, then walks in and Ziggy asks Momo to get him the parts that he needs for his repairs. After she leaves, Rubido comments on how he has never seen him lose control like that. They get into conversation about how Junior can't seem to control himself either around Albedo. And Ziggy, who knows that Junior is there for advice, tells him,
I won't pretend to understand what you're thinking, and I have no intention of rebuking you. Just do what you feel is right.
Old man?
Just go and show him a thing or two.
Having Ziggy's approval, Junior walks off towards his ES when he's stopped by Momo. Knowing what he's doing, she asks him why he feels like he has to take on everything by himself and asks him if she can go with him, but Junior tells her that it has to be him and him alone. That's how Albedo wants it.
I'm his brother after all. I wasn't always a good big brother, but now I've at least got to settle this.
Junior apologizes and tells Momo to think of an excuse to tell the others. Before he leaves, Momo tells him to promise that he'll come back, but knowing that's not a promise he can make, Junior simply looks at her and runs towards his ES.
Please promise me. Promise you'll come back. If you don't, I...
Once inside ES Asher, Junior forces open the hangar hatch, something which does not go unnoticed by the 100 series Realians and the Durandal. She notified the rest of the group that ES Asher is leaving, but Momo tells them that Junior says he wanted to test his craft. Great lie, Momo. Great lie. Shion, of course, sees through this, but Momo tells them that he promised he would be back, which he didn't. Maybe this is the lie. Junior makes his way into the space-time anomaly, and once inside, Albedo begins mocking him the whole way through, using an illusion of his young self. The whole area is just one flashback after another, except some aren't really flashbacks. The Albedo using settings of a past event to further antagonize Rubido. For example, on the first one, we see young Albedo making the fake graves to prepare himself for when Rubido and Negredo die. This is when he gets an idea. What will happen if he links with Udo? Will Rubido, the leader of the URTVs with the power to kill Udo, kill him? Rubido says that he would never do something like that, but Albedo laughs and says that he would, and he will, because that's how he's built.
Because we're the anti-existence of Udo.
So like I said, these scenes are half flashback and half Albedo using the settings of past events to antagonize Rubido. That's why Rubido is able to interact with the flashbacks. In another scene, we see Albedo punching Sakura, beating the crap out of her, saying how much he hates her because she's bothering Rubido and flirting with him. I don't really know if this happened. It doesn't seem to fit though, which is why I didn't mention this while going over the URTV's backstories. It's definitely mainly not a flashback though, as Albedo begins mocking Rubido about Momo.
Momo?
No, that's right. There's still that imitation. You're such a pitiful man, Rubido. To think you have to satisfy yourself with this toy.
Yeah, like I said, he's trying to antagonize Rubido. He even tells him that he's sick and disgusted about how Rubido keeps clinging onto him, even though we all know it's Albedo who's clinging onto Rubido. Rubido then enters a room full of mirrors, except they're not mirrors. Rubido's reflections start mocking him and antagonizing him to stop holding back and to just kill Albedo because he doesn't need a loser like Albedo.
Hurry up and kill me.
Albedo finally gets to Rubido enough to set off his Red Dragon mode, but thinking of Sakura helps him control himself. Well, at least I'm thinking that it's him thinking of Sakura, because if it was actually Sakura, I feel like Rubido would react a little more differently. Anyways, finally at the end of the road, he gets to Albedo's throne room. There, we see Albedo with some weird type of wires that look like veins and arteries coming out of him. Albedo, who has lost his physical body, says that despite this, he feels much better now. Junior begs him to stop the space-time anomaly, but Albedo, well, let me just play because it's one of those great scenes of his that is better experienced.
I think not. As my duty as an immortal, I prepared a brand new worldview for mankind. When I temporarily linked with Udu, I climbed the ladder of evolution and saw the leaning tower of culture that humans have struggled to construct. It's not even a tower, really. It's a scaffold of rotting wood, built with meager knowledge and pitiful tools. But a nice guy would tell them the truth, would he not? Hello? You've got it all wrong!
What are you gonna do with this region of space?
Who knows? Perhaps I'll cause a shift and shove this whole dimension into a high-order domain. Don't be afraid. We low-dimension creatures will move on last to a higher plane. It'll be glorious. The true eternal chain. The fulfillment of that which we lacked. The evolution of mankind and the evolution of the very world itself that watches over us. Happy days are here. They'll name a holiday after me. That is, assuming they even have the concept of holidays on the other side.
As Albedo begins glowing with Udu waves, Rubido can no longer control himself and his Red Dragon mode begins to activate. As this happens, Albedo challenges him by calling Rubido his positron, which is the antiparticle of an electron. Albedo tells him that a weapon shouldn't be ashamed of desiring combat, and finally, Rubido lets go and accepts what he is, a weapon.
You're right! I am a weapon! Every cell in my body is aching for a fight! They long to collide with their anti-existence! I've probably wanted to fight from the moment we were born!
We think alike, Rubido. I feel exactly the same way. Right now, I'd like to rip you to shreds!
As Rubido prepares for battle, he tells Albedo that he's going to rip him out of this place and drag him to the Durandal. He's still hoping on saving Albedo. This fight drags on for a while, but the thing about it is that Albedo just taunts Rubido the whole time. Rarely does he actually attack. Right before being defeated, Albedo uses his strongest attack, but it always leaves Rubido with 1 HP. I wonder what that means. Anyways, the whole reason why this fight is significant is because Albedo has linked with Udu, and Rubido is an anti-Udu existence. This means that Rubido could actually kill Albedo now. Regenerative powers or no. Rubido is now the anti-existence of Albedo, the positron to his electron. And what happens when a particle collides with its antiparticle? Annihilation. After the fight, Rubido admits that he was having fun, telling Albedo that it's really true that they're nothing more than weapons. Then Albedo falls to the ground, and as he realizes that he is going to die, he tells Rubido that oblivion doesn't sound too bad, and he sees it as more of a release, as he finally won't have to worry about losing anyone anymore. Rubido now understands why Albedo did everything he did, why he linked with Udu, why he stopped to spread the space-time anomaly, why he wouldn't make an honest attempt to kill him. Albedo wanted to die, and this was the only way to do so.
What's with that face? You look like you just lost your best friend, Rubido.
You bastard! You knew all along!
What are you talking about? I can't stand you or Negredo.
As Albedo begins to disappear, he warns Rubido about Negredo, telling him to think of why it is that he doesn't react to Udu. Then, a group of flying Kirswassers come down and lift Albedo up. As he leaves Rubido below him, begging him not to go, Albedo, who is finally free from his undying curse, says,
Look, Rubido. I'm free.
Scared, Rubido! Don't let go of my hand! No, don't go! No! Rubido, don't let go! Albedo, don't go! Don't leave me alone! Don't let go! Albedo! Albedo!
Left alone without his other half, Rubido sits on the ground, crying as everything turns black. Behind him, Sakura's consciousness appears and asks him what's wrong.
I can't hear it. My right chest. I can't hear my other heartbeat anymore.
Is that why you're crying?
Leave me alone. I just tore away half of my body with my own hands. The me that's here isn't me anymore.
Sakura keeps trying to cheer him up, but Rubido refuses to get out of his rut. Then Sakura reminds him there are people waiting for him and that he made a promise to protect Momo.
Remember the promise that you made me? Please promise me. Promise you'll come back.
Momo.
Remembering his duty to Momo and that there are still other loved ones that he needs to live for, Rubido gets up, wipes his tears. Sakura tells him that this is the Rubido that she loves, and Rubido walks over to her to hug her. As he collapses from exhaustion on her, her form disappears in exchange for chaos. I'm not sure if this means that Sakura was never there and it was just Chaos trying to cheer him up, or maybe Chaos just temporarily brought back Sakura's consciousness to cheer up Rubido. With his powers, you honestly can never know. Anyways, Chaos tells Rubido that he did well, and behind him, Nephilim says that he will finally be able to find peace. However, both her and Chaos agree that this is not the end for him, as a tiny ripple has been born around him and it will soon swallow them. As she says this, we see the space-time anomaly dissipating, leaving behind only the Zohar.
Yes. And that's why I want him to rest. Even if his rest is but a short one. May your bodies and souls find peace. Even if it is but a short one.
Back in the Durandal, we see as Shion and the rest await Junior's return. Then Junior finally shows up and Momo runs over to him and hugs him. Happy to see him alive and okay. When Shion asks him if him and Albedo managed to make up, Rubido says he's not sure since they're both pretty stubborn. Then a 100 Series Realians informs Mary that they have spotted the original Zohar, and Mary tells them to prepare to bring it into the Durandal and to give it everything they got, as this is their final job. As they prepare to do so, the 100 Series Realian begins detecting an abnormality in space. It's a giant mass gating out. She tries to calculate the mass, but it continues to increase until she just simply says that it's immeasurable. Mary says that a gnosis this big can't possibly exist. Then they prepare for the shockwave, as whatever they're detecting is beginning to materialize.
It's coming. Abel's Ark.
Abel's Ark has arrived. Abel's Ark draws in the Zohar into itself as everyone stands in awe at the monstrosity before them. Then the Ark begins to disappear back into imaginary space as Chaos watches from outside the Durandal. Yes, Chaos is just standing in the vacuum of space. While this could be Abel's Ark gating back into the imaginary domain, the golden light that precedes its departure, the way that Chaos was looking at it, and what he is about to say all make me believe that this is actually Chaos finally deciding to use his powers and sends Abel back into the imaginary number domain. Then after Abel's Ark disappears, we finally get to see the two ancient beings communicate.
It's been a long time, Yeshua. I'm pleased that you've come. But didn't you say you weren't going to intervene? I've made up my mind. I won't hold back anymore. That's wonderful. I'm thrilled that you'll finally be entering the stage.
Chaos has been holding back his power because the use of his power of anima accelerates the collapse of the lower domain, as I explained before episode 1. This is why at the end of episode 1 he was so hesitant to use it. But it seems that he has finally decided to use his powers, at least when needed, which was something Wilhelm didn't seem to expect. Now, before I continue, let me explain something. The reason why Abel's Ark, which is one of Udu's observational terminals, swallowed the Zohar was, as disappointingly simple as it sounds, to observe it more closely. Udu was observing Albedo's consciousness, as it seems that the crazier the stuff happening is, the more interested Udu becomes. So after the space-time anomaly, in order to observe things closer, Udu absorbed the Zohar, which had become contact points of the upper and lower domains. Again, everything Udu does tends to have an end goal of simply observing and understanding more. After this, the game reaches the credits, and a few short cutscenes play. One shows Junior, who calls over to Mary to ask her if he thinks that it would be okay to keep a dog under the Durandal Bridge. Apparently he found or bought a dog who just happens to be an albino dog with purple eyes, and he names him Albi. I'm sure he's not trying to make up for a gap in his heart. Then we cut to Momo and Ziggy at the spaceport. There, Julie awaits Momo, who runs over to Julie when she sees her. Julie tells Ziggy that she's planning on living with Momo and asks him if he could protect Momo if the need arises. Apparently, Ziggy has been assigned to the Kukai Foundation by one of the representative trustees. He is stationed on the Durandal indefinitely and is ordered to be loaned out to Momo at her request as a matter of top priority. How convenient. Because of this assignment, Ziggy will be undergoing a life extension. Momo then asks Ziggy,
which representative trustee made the request?
The little one, of course.
You mean little Junior, right?
In case it wasn't clear, Ziggy is still a cyborg, and cyborgs have no rights. They can't make a special case for Ziggy, so what Junior did was assign him to the Durandal indefinitely in order to keep Ziggy close to his friends, and keep others from employing his services. Then the assignment to be loaned out to Momo at her request was essentially Junior's way of letting Ziggy live with Momo and Julie, as her request takes top priority, and she can request Ziggy's services for anything, even just to hang out. It's top priority. This was the best way that Junior could give Ziggy back his freedom. We then see Xion and Jin parting ways in what I think is the Damarang, as Jin goes off to investigate Ormus further. After Xion teases Jin about his bookstore not lasting 6 months yet, which is the amount of time she says all his jobs last, Jin heads inside the Elsa. Both of them seem to finally be on good terms. As the Elsa departs, Cosmos and Alan join Xion. After the credits, we see Wilhelm and his testament speaking in a dark room. The Blue Testament, Virgil, asks Wilhelm what he will do with Hem. Who is Hem? Well, I don't know. But Wilhelm does respond with,
I said it was a shame, didn't I?
When has he said that before? Behind Wilhelm, we see a fourth ES with a fourth testament on it, the White Testament.
Welcome, Weaver of the Eternal Circle of Zarathustra.
And that is Xenosaga Episode 2. Thank you guys for watching. This is, of course, the end of Act 4, so you know the drill. The next parts will take a while since I have to go over the whole process again. However, it might not take as long because I did take a while this time because I was doing something for like a week and a half. However, Xenosaga 3 is much longer than Xenosaga 2, so I don't know. Next act will either be Xenosaga 2 to 3, A Missing Year, or Xenosaga 3 with a missing year being a chapter in the act. It depends on how long a missing year turns out to be. If it's short, I'll just make it part of Act 5, and Act 5 will be the last act as it will go over Xenosaga 3, the last game. But if it's long, I'll just make Act 5 be a missing year, and Act 6 be Episode 3. Anyways, I may or may not also post some non-Xenosaga related videos during that time, but again, thank you for everyone watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.